Good evening. Welcome. I am Mary Grace, and I have with you tonight a special report. I want to get right to this. If you've been waiting for this stream, you may have been wondering what's going on. It's because the live didn't click. I'm Mary Grace. This is the Mary Grace Show, the voice of sanity to help you navigate politics, culture, wellness, faith, and world events. Tonight, we're going to be talking with a special guest who is coming to us boots on the ground from North Carolina. This is Hannah. She owns Jack's Stables, and she has been involved from the get go with helping people on the ground in North Carolina who have been severely impacted by Hurricane Helene. And just to give you an update, for those of you who may have been living under a rock and don't know what happened, there was a horrific uh, hurricane that came through the mountains of North Carolina and took out entire villages and entire homes, upended railroad tracks, things that you couldn't imagine happening. The devastation is beyond what you can imagine. General Flynn has been on our show. He described it as a 10 out of 10 in terms of severity. But we're talking right now with Hannah. She's on the ground. She is at a base camp where they're doing distribution. And so she's going to give us an update, and we're going to talk specifically about something that she put on her TikTok. But before we do that, Hannah, welcome to the show. I want to give you an opportunity to describe to us 6 weeks in where you are in this process of recovery from Hurricane Helene. And thank you, by the way, for what you're doing. Thank you. I couldn't get there. My dad had a stroke, so we've been dealing with hospitals. But if I could, I'd be there. So,
everybody does their part in different ways.
yeah.
Yeah. So right now, so Asheville, Swananoa type areas, they're looking into rebuild, right? So there's
Hmm.
rebuild going on. A lot of homes that were either completely gone or condemned to a point where they need to start from scratch, or there's a lot of repairs that need to be done to make it. So those communities are in a rebuild phase. We're getting people into temporary housing while we help them rebuild their homes, or we're getting people out of shelters into campers or tiny homes or things like that. We're working with the
Hmm. Hmm.
permits and things. Shelters are starting to kind of close down. We're moving into a different phase there. I'm actually in Spruce Pine right now, which is about an hour north of Swananoa, and they're actually about 2 weeks behind in their relief than where Swananoa is. So
Okay.
and they're still off of their houses and heating heaters, and there's still people in tents up and branch out to some of the more rural areas
Hmm. Hmm.
so we can that rebuild phase as well.
Hmm. So we're having a little trouble with volume. It may be if you're on a speaker. Do you have if you have an earbud, even if it's a wired one that you can put in, that would be great. But if you don't, we'll deal with it. You're cutting out, and I think probably it may be because of your feed and you're doing speaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll do the best we can. So basically, people are intense, um, and and the challenge is, first of all, it's cold. I know that there are groups that are bringing what I would call a wall tent. They're like canvas army tents and things like
Right.
that. But do you also have people who are in just regular camping tents?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are in whatever they could get their hands on, right? I mean,
How are they heating? How are they heating?
mostly like buddy heaters, propane type
Wow.
situations, lots of sleeping bags, and just kind of hoping.
Wow.
Um, a lot of people are in shelters too, so it
Mhm.
depends
Mhm.
on the situation and what was available.
What is the temperature right now?
54.
Okay, and it's getting down how low at night?
um 30s, I think 40s.
Yeah. I know you've had a hard freeze. Now, one thing about the mountains I think I want to explain to people is that we are days are shorter in the winter. They're even shorter in the mountains. Can you explain why?
um Well, it we're we're in the mountains, right? So that when the sun sets, the mountains are really tall, and so we lose sunlight before people that are in like plain type area, with flatter areas.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Yeah.
to explain that, but basically, yeah, the sun sets here, and we have less sky to work with. So
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. They don't really have a picture of what's going on. They didn't really understand, even how all this rain didn't have anywhere to go. And it's like when they talk about flash flooding, there's literally nowhere to go. And so it piles up and it goes up. And then it's all over the houses and the parking lots and in people's
right, I mean,
property.
the valleys here are just demolished, right? Because there's
Yeah.
so many little rivers and creeks out here that just got flooded. They had to let some of the dam overflow, out in Asheville and stuff, and so there was excess water from that. There's just it's different than a flood in a hurricane in a regular area because it's different terrain out here, and so it's less
Yeah.
hurricane hits in the mountain.
Yeah, and you guys, you're not set up for it. I mean,
No,
there's no
sure.
scenario where you're going, "Okay, we're gonna do our hurricane prep." I mean, my niece is from Boone. I mean, she lives in Boone, but she's actually from the coast,
Okay.
right? She's from New Bern. So
Okay.
she lived through Hurricane Florence,
Yeah.
which devastated New Bern and Craven County. And now she'll be 24 this month. So now she's lived through 2 hyper extreme hurricanes,
And
right? Isn't that crazy? But this time she wasn't prepared. So I want to go into a few more details. So hold on just a second.
sorry.
Uh, okay. So, all right, she's just moving locations here. Okay. I'm trying to get the Rumble connected. I'm going to see if I can do that. So, Hannah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you talk to us a little bit. I want you to talk to us about the needs, because there's a couple things. You have a TikTok, and it's Jack's Stables, and people can go there and watch. But while I'm working on the Rumble link, I want you to talk to us about what you need to help, but also I want to talk about what you don't need, because I know you're not the only one that I have seen making posts about what not to send. And
Sure.
it's a little bit embarrassing that people are sending like junk. But let's but be clear about this, okay? Because a lot of people are asking, and I do have people in the chat asking about children. We're going to get to that. So please stay here. I want my Rumble to get connected, and there's just a little challenge with my software, and so I'm going to fix that while Hannah's talking. This is Hannah. She is on the ground in Spruce Pine, North Carolina. She has been involved from day one with helping these hurricane victims, and she has graciously agreed to stand out in a very cold parking lot and talk to us. So tell us about the needs and tell us where people can go to find your Amazon
Right.
list. So that would be great. Okay, here we go. So
Okay.
I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be like not looking right at you, but I'm listening. All right,
Okay.
so here.
So yeah, the website is jackstables.com. It's JAKS stables.com. When you get there, that is an Amazon wish list that is pretty up to date on our current needs. You're going to see things like tools and dehumidifiers and other, bedding. We're trying to refurnish some houses out here, so lots of stuff, cookware, um, just that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for right now. A lot of building supplies. Unfortunately, we can't like ship sheetrock, so that's just kind of a monetary need right now. But we are in need of a lot of those types of tools and building supplies. Anything like think about what you would need if you were building a house and what you would bring to a housewarming party. Those are like the top needs right now.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they can find that Amazon list on the Jack site. Things that we don't need: food, we don't need water, we don't need clothes right now. These communities are overrun with those items at the moment. Um, a lot of people are worried about people getting cold and needing heaters and jackets and gloves, and those were definitely needs 2 weeks ago, but they're not needs right now because a lot of these supply hubs were influxed with donations of those items, which is great. So we don't need those. Also, anything used like and medication. We can't take medication. Do not ship me medication.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I've noticed this, it seems like people use these opportunities to clean out their garages, right? And this is not a time for you to do that, guys. This is a time like people have been devastated. They don't want your cast-offs. They
No.
they need housing. Like that's what they need, right?
Campers, we need people to donate campers. We need people to buy campers. We need people to haul campers that have been donated from other states to us, right? We need truck drivers that are willing to do that. We need gift cards so that we can go and buy the sheetrock.
um okay. Oh, you're in the South, I can tell.
Sorry.
That's
There's
okay.
a very obnoxious car.
Yeah, I can tell. That's okay. Let's see. I think did we lose her there for a second? I'm trying to get the Rumble set up, but I don't know if I can do it. All right, so I apologize to my Rumble people. Let's see. Okay, did we lose her? All right, let's see. Okay, I think we might have lost her. All right, we'll see if we can get her. There she is. Okay, she's
North
back.
Carolina.
No, that's not it. Okay, there she is. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you, I apologize in advance to my Rumble people. I'm going to upload this to Rumble. I can't troubleshoot it right now. There's something that changed with my software here on Restream, and it was working the other day. Anyway, just too much to explain. But so Hannah is with us. She is in her vehicle. Oh, there she is. She's got a light on. So Hannah's from Jack's Stables, JAKS, down in North Carolina, Spruce Pine. She's based out of Raleigh, but she's been in Spruce Pine doing this humanitarian work to help her fellow North Carolinians get through this tragedy. So we were talking before I was dealing with the tech stuff, which I'm going to stop dealing with right now. We were talking about the needs. And so I want to, so one thing to know, I've got questions about specific areas. The geographic area is very big. And
Yes.
so the area that Hannah is in, she's probably not going to be able to tell you specifically about a certain county or a certain town because, even if these places are close together, they're spread apart by sometimes there's no roads. Sometimes there's it'll take like an hour to go 5 or 10 miles because of the conditions of the roads and because it's the mountains. So if you want to know specific areas, you're going to have to kind of dial into people that are in those specific areas. But I think that what Hannah's telling us is like it's a good example of what is happening in all of the communities that have had an impact by this. Okay, so Hannah, building supplies, you have an Amazon wish list, but you are saying that you need RVs, you need people to haul them, you need building materials, and obviously they can't send that on Amazon. But we were talking earlier, if they go to your website, Jack's Stables, tell us the website and how to spell it, because if they want to donate or do a monetary donation, they can do that, right? Through your website. They can email you.
Right. So it's
Okay.
Stables. It's JAKS. Stables.com. And the Amazon wish list is on there. And if they want to help us with building supplies and such, then they can send gift cards to Home Depot and Lowe's and things like that. Because we're going through those like crazy.
Sure. Now, who do you have actually doing the building? I know that there are some Amish in some areas who are building tiny homes. We've had actually General Flynn on the show here, and
Mhm.
he's working with a group out of Avery County that are doing some really, like sheds, pretty much, just to get people in a warm place. So how's everything being built? Like who's building?
Yeah, well, everybody's building, right? I mean, there's so much need here that
Yeah.
a lot of operations out here that are building a lot of churches, a lot of offices,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so everybody's really been really good. We're all chipping in. We're at a
hmm
point where all the command centers and supply hubs and stuff that have been out here are all
hmm
kind of just trying to work together now.
Okay. Okay. Took a while, huh? Well, what
Yeah.
about the military? I've heard so many stories. We heard that the military was begging to be deployed. It didn't happen right away. I don't know if you know this, but in Katrina, they had 75,000 troops on the ground by the time the hurricane hit. Did you
Yeah,
know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So here we are. I don't think were you born when that happened?
I
But
don't know. Well, yeah, because
it was
yeah,
you were probably pretty young.
I
But
was. Yeah, my parents went and helped with that relief effort.
okay, okay. So, but the difference is, are you seeing troops on the ground? And if so, what are you seeing?
Sure. I mean, there's definitely a military presence here. National Guard's been out here. We've seen Army out here. We've worked together with them. They've been, relatively helpful. Um, I I definitely don't think there's been enough. And they were late. So
hmm
it was really stressful being here as somebody who was on the ground, like day 3 and waiting on military to show up. And then, like a week later, all of a sudden there's this influx of military and FEMA and they're
Wow.
coming and trying to take over. And it's like, we've already done everything. Like,
And is that what happened? They came and tried to take over your operation?
well, I mean, they came and took over a lot of the operations that were government run, essentially.
Okay.
But, if you were operating out of a middle school or any kind of government owned building, that
Right.
was at risk
Okay.
of being taken
Okay.
over, right?
Wow. Okay. Now I want to talk about the Red Cross. Speaking of well, non-government, but you put up a video on TikTok
Mm-hmm.
that went viral,
Yeah.
and I want to play that video. I want to play it because this is. I've had people messaging me. I've had people tagging me. They're like, Mary Grace, find out what's going on because these are the kind of things we want people to know.
Mm-hmm.
So let me play this video. I'm gonna see if I can get it in and I'll take I think we can play it while we're watching. So this is short, everybody. This is not so we're playing a video that she put up a while back and it went viral and a lot of people reposted it. This is actually a repost, but here we go.
Red Cross has decided that there is no more need in this area and they're shutting down their shelters. They've shut down 3 so far that I'm aware of: Marion, Old Fort, Clyde, and we have spent the last 24 hours with ourselves and working in conjunction with other organizations trying to find placements for these people that have nowhere to go. They lost their homes in the storm, or they, don't have a place to go because the place they were renting is gone or their apartment complex is gone. I mean, there's a reason that we had shelters out here, guys. This isn't a problem that got fixed in 4 weeks. I don't understand why people think that this is over and they can just shut down and pull out. You can't rebuild a house in 4 weeks. You can't provide housing for thousands of people in 4 weeks. It just doesn't happen. We have these campers and these tiny homes that we're passing out as quickly as we can and as much as we can with the funding that we have, but we're also running into problems with permits for the county. Which, why are we worried about permits right now? Like, you're letting them sleep in a tent on their property. Why are you going to fight me on dropping off a tiny home? I just can't imagine or fathom what these people must be feeling when their house was washed away. They have nothing but the clothes on their back, which they probably had to go get from a supply warehouse. And then you're coming up to them and not even giving notice and just saying, hey, our shelter's going to be closing today or tomorrow. Figure it out. Oh, and if you don't, we're going to take your child from you? DSS is out here threatening to take people's children away from them because they are homeless. And while I understand that to a degree, I also feel like we need to be extending some grace to these people and helping them find housing rather than making their situation more stressful by threatening to take away their children. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. We all are. There's so much to do out here, and there's not enough hands, and there's not enough money in the world to make it all happen here. So we're just going to help as many people as we can for as long as we can. Don't be like these larger organizations and think that everything's fine here, because it's not, and we need help. We need help.
Okay. I can see why that went viral. That was 2 weeks ago, right? And you and I talked last week about this, and you gave some clarification about some of this, and we'll get to that in just a second. But Red Cross just pulled up and left. Now they've put out some statements saying that they haven't left, right? Probably because of your video. And we might have lost your volume here. Let me see if I can get you back. If it doesn't work, I'll get you to click out and come back.
I think we're
Oh,
good.
there we are. Okay, you're back. Okay. So yeah, so a couple of bombshells in your video.
Mhm.
Red Cross pulled up stakes, at least in 3 places where you were, that you know of, and you and people around you were left scrambling to get people housing. All right.
Yeah.
And that's when we had like a freeze. We had a pretty hard freeze, right? It was really cold. And then you were getting reports that DSS, which is the North Carolina version of Child Protective Services, was threatening to take kids. So which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's start with Red Cross.
Okay.
So I was very emotional on that video because
Sure.
it was all just happening so fast. And, one of the people that I am working with basically sent me a list that Sunday, and we had about a 12-hour notice of, hey, this
And
shelter
how a list of people who are being moved? Okay.
that were staying in the Marion shelter
Okay.
that did not have anywhere to go, and that shelter was closing that day. And so, we hurried up, we figured it out. We put a couple in Airbnbs. We found a camper for, we figured that out, and it was stressful, but it was done. And then we started calling around and figuring out, hey, when are these other shelters going to be closing, right? So we can get a little more time notice on them. And that is when the DCS situation started evolving. So,
okay. And tell us a little bit more about that. So as you're trying to scramble, you've got people. I want to paint the picture here for my listeners. Somebody just said, are they still staying in tents or still without housing? Yes. Okay. There are people who are living in like campground tents that you buy at Walmart.
yeah.
They're using buddy heaters to heat. They're sleeping on sleeping bags. Their houses are gone. Rental properties gone. So this is a pretty dire situation. There are groups that are bringing in RVs and tiny homes as quickly as they can. One of the things Hannah mentioned is that if you have an RV to donate, please do. But also, if you can haul a donated RV and help locate it and place it, they need that as well. And not everybody can haul an RV. So that's an issue. And again, if you're going to donate an RV, think about if you would live in it. Okay. Think about if it's in the condition that you would live in, or that that you would want your mom to live in.
Right.
That's the criteria. Okay. Nothing junky, moldy, falling apart with rats living in it. That's not what people need. They've lost everything. So, yeah. Okay. So you had this situation. And then just the gravy on top was that you started hearing stories about Child Protective Services threatening to take kids. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, once we started contacting some of the other shelters and getting in touch with those people, there was, that particular day that we made that video, there was one family in particular. It was a single dad. He had a little boy, and he was talking to us about his housing needs. And he mentioned, hey, this shelter is going to be closing soon. I don't have anywhere to go, and DCS is telling me if I don't get a roof over my kid's head that they're going to take him. And so we obviously wanted to make sure that that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to look into the situation a little more as well. And something I do want to clarify is that DCS is not out here knocking on doors trying to find children to take. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not the case. But the way that the system is set up right now is that if somebody calls in and says and files a report, right, they have to follow up on it. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a roof over your child's head in the state of North Carolina, that is a legitimate cause to take your child away. I mean, anybody that has had CPS come to their home knows the first thing they do is they check, do you have running water? Do you have electricity? Is your home livable? And as long as you pass those 3 requirements, they'll pretty much just leave.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then there's a larger investigation that goes on.
Oh, we're breaking up a little bit. Let's give her a chance to.
Let child live in those conditions.
Okay.
Did I lose you for a second?
Yeah. So talk about there's a larger investigation going on.
Yeah.
To go back to that.
Yeah. Once they realize, hey, there's no food or there's no water or there's no electricity, or not safe, livable, that's when DCS is coming in and going, hey, your child's at risk of being taken, because a tent is not a house to them.
Right. I understand. Okay. But here's where we have the conundrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said in your video, the county, the state, whatever locality is making building hard because of permitting.
Mm.
Like what? Okay. And then the shelters that are available, some of them are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you've got a person who's even if they have property, they may not be able to put up a tiny home because of the permits required.
Yeah,
right?
Buncombe County is being just really ridiculous, and I'm not scared to call them out on it, because
Okay.
the definition of temporary housing right now is just like it's beyond stupid. So they're off tiny homes. They have to, like, what we're having to do is it has to be less than 144 square feet. It cannot come like pre-wired. It cannot be hooked up to any kind of water or sewer or anything. Even the campers that we're dropping off, like, they're not allowing like permanent hookups for these things, right? Without like significant permits and stuff. And they're not approving any of the permits. So it's very frustrating.
Wow.
These people that are wanting to donate these tiny homes, and basically, unless you're like in the middle of nowhere on private property and you just don't care about your permits, and you're just going to ask forgiveness rather than permission, then you can't do it. Having to call is all this.
That's frustrating. Now, is there a way to call like an emergency legislative session of the board of supervisors or the zoning board or whoever does that? I mean, that's crazy.
We're supposed to have a meeting this week on Tuesday, but they postponed it because of the election. And to my knowledge, they haven't met, and it's Saturday. So, like, we're in an emergency situation here, and you guys are like, well, we'll just figure it out next Tuesday. Like,
well,
no.
Clearly these people actually have a roof over their head and running water, right?
Right.
So that's pretty obvious that's what's happening. For the public, I have a very engaged audience, and so If you tell them who to call and who to email, they're going to do it. I'm just letting you know now. So, is there anybody on the board of supervisors, on the zoning board, that needs to hear a politely worded call or letter that says, "Hey, your rules should not apply right now. These people are desperate." And that brings me also to FEMA, because like during Katrina, FEMA was bringing in temporary structures and they were placing them, and I'm guessing that they were circumventing a lot of these zoning requirements, and I don't know if it's zoning or whatever, like building requirements, permitting requirements, but apparently they're not really there either. Um, right? Have you seen any FEMA trailers installed?
Um, I know of one temporary housing unit that got dropped off, but I'm
Okay.
not a lot. No. I mean, they're here. Don't get me wrong. FEMA's been here. Um,
Uh-huh.
I'm still on the phone. Um, they're still here.
Uh-huh.
But no, I mean nothing like they did for Katrina. I have no idea why there's not all these
Yeah.
housing units being dropped off. I have it's
Mhm.
going to me because we have a need for housing and we're seeing uh no houses being dropped. And the only thing that I can think is
Mhm.
that there's nowhere to put them.
Okay.
Right. So a lot of these roads and driveways, a lot of these people that could use a temporary house, they you got to think in the mountains, the way the terrain is set up
Mhm.
is a lot of people. I mean, like a lot of people,
Yeah.
personal bridges to get to their homes because they have to cross a creek to get there.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
We have that out here some too. Yeah.
right. So FEMA's not approving bridges when it comes to like rebuilding or money for that. And so
Mhm.
like the one house that I know of that got a FEMA trailer, we had to go in and take large equipment and fix their driveway and
Mhm.
clear a space in their yard to the point where
Mhm.
we could drop it. So FEMA's like, oh yeah,
Okay.
you get a 12 by 16 or however big the trailer was spot cleared, and you get it to where our trucks can get in and out of your driveway, then sure, we'll drop you a trailer. But like, what good is that to most of these people? I mean, there's not enough large equipment
Wow.
volunteers to fix everybody's driveways
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
time to get them temporary housing. So
This is where the military should come in, because the Army Corps of Engineers could do that. They could have done dozens, if not hundreds, of spots. Now, General Flynn, when he was talking about this, he's been in foreign countries, like multiple disaster areas. The military goes in, they do exactly what you're talking about.
mhm,
Set up tents. They set up the canvas tents with the heaters and things like that. Now, he was saying one of the primary areas that he thinks could be used is airstrips, because
mhm,
they've it's a central location. They can bring in supplies. It's flat, which is
mhm.
one of the flat pace places. Is that something that you guys have looked into up there?
Yeah, so a lot of the smaller airports around here are already set up as,
Okay.
hubs and command centers, and so that's
But
definitely.
for housing, are they able, like,
Uh,
is that something you've talked to them about, or
no, not for housing, but I mean the airports around here are already super small. Uh,
yeah.
but I
Okay.
mean, not to say that it's not an option, but
Yeah.
they're privately run and they're super small. Uh,
Mhm. Got it. Okay. Okay. I mean, it's crazy. And then when they talk about, when you let's go to the CPS thing again, the DSS. Um, I was reading a little bit about this before the show,
mhm,
and at least I think at the federal level, they are supposed to help provide housing, at least temporarily, if a family is in need. Can you speak to that? Are you aware of that? They're supposed to give housing vouchers, hotel vouchers, Airbnb. Like, is there any, have you had that conversation?
Well, there's 1,900 people in Buncombe County that are out on hotel vouchers right now. I mean, that's
Okay.
a thing that has been going on. But for the people that didn't qualify for those or, couldn't get them for whatever reason, most of those people are the people that are in the shelters right now. And
Mhm.
if you're in a shelter and your shelter is closing down and you didn't, I mean, why would you be in a shelter if you qualified for a hotel voucher, right? So,
Mhm. Okay.
um,
How do they
there's
qualify for a hotel voucher?
some of them won't qualify. Like we have some families that were living in hotels, right? So like, and a lot of people do that. That's not like an uncommon.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're homeless. Okay, you're living in the hotel. You're paying $1,800 a month to live there. You have a job. That's just where you live.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, I've seen
right.
that,
So
yeah.
situation. But I mean, FEMA's not going to help you if you didn't have a place of residence, right? Like, there's a lot of issues with that. There's issues where people were living with family or friends. There's issues where,
Mhm.
um, maybe they were renting and didn't have a written lease, or I mean
Okay.
there's a lot of situations that FEMA's not helping with. And
Mhm.
the hotel vouchers are uh they're not being given to everybody, unfortunately. There's a lot of, even
Mhm.
with the $750 that's being handed out, it's $750 per house, right? So if you have a roommate, one of you gets it, not both of you, right? It's like per residence.
I
And so that's not even an ideal situation. I mean, it's great to have an influx of cash. Don't get
Mhm.
me wrong, that's been extremely helpful for a lot of people. But it's not helpful when you have two households living together, or you
Mhm.
have multiple people in that household that need it, that are adults.
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So
Sure, sure. And one thing people don't get about the region that you're in is it's not a high socioeconomic area. Now there are pockets of wealth in the ski areas, like I know, like Blowing Rock. I mean, there's retirees that have money, but most of the people who work in the service industry, who are working to keep these retirement communities afloat, right? They're the ones you're talking about. They're the bread and butter of these counties.
right.
And it's a mountain community, and a lot of people, they don't necessarily want more, right? They're choosing to live very simply, but
Mhm.
they don't have access to a lot of resources when and if things like this happen. They're resourceful people, but like you're saying, it's in some cases, especially with this economy, maybe they're living in a hotel because it's actually cheaper or
Mhm.
easier than finding a house, right?
Right.
Or it's closer to their job, or whatever it is. I don't know how you're not just, like, screaming and ranting right now. I
Well,
I'm getting angry just listening to you. I mean, yeah, yeah.
it's a frustrating situation for sure. I mean, I have had my fair share of throwing chairs across the tents, but
Yeah, yeah,
it doesn't help
yeah.
at the end. You really just have to sit back uh,
Sure, sure.
and
Now, do you have people in your community who are, I don't wanna get too political, but there are some political elements to this. I've heard a lot of people say, that if people come over our borders illegally, they're given all of the things. And are you guys having that conversation? Are the people that are going without in North Carolina aware of that? Does that come up, as you're talking about these needs?
honestly, I have no idea what people are talking about because
Mhm,
we're across illegals here all the time, and they
mhm.
are one of the least help uh, portion of this community. They're not sitting out here with 3 meals and hot beds and
Okay,
free
okay.
housing. I don't know where this information is coming from. Maybe they are in other cities, but in
Mhm,
this disaster zone, they're in hiding. They're scared. They don't know who they
mhm.
can. We're trying to be a resource for them as well because they're
Okay.
human that need heat,
Yeah,
and I don't
yeah.
die. Right? I mean, at the end
Sure,
of the day,
yeah, yeah.
it's a disaster zone. I'm not going to pick and choose who I'm helping because you have papers.
Mhm.
I'm just not.
No, that's
So
interesting. No, I'm glad you're clarifying this because there's, like I said, it is, I mean, there's a big political element to this, whether we want it to be or not, right? But I do know, for example, in New York City,
Hmm.
People are coming in illegally and they're being given vouchers. They're being put up in hotels. They're being given debit cards and things like that. So I think that this is really, I'm glad I asked you this question because now you're saying that that's not the case where you are, that the people who are there illegally are in dire straits as well. And
Yeah,
they're
more so
okay.
because they're not comfortable going out and asking for help in the way that an American citizen would be, because they have to be more
Mhm.
cautious on who they talk to and where they go. And we had some ICE trucks driving around in the beginning. I don't know why ICE was here, but
Mhm.
that scared a lot of people. And so,
Mhm.
our immigrant communities here, I would say, are worse off, not better off.
Okay. What do the immigrant, communities do there? Are they, like, what kind of work do they do? Is it mostly, agriculture? I'm not familiar with the industry there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of agriculture here. There's also
Mhm.
a lot of like construction and stuff that
Okay.
find,
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
that's where they're going to be finding employment for sure out.
Mhm. Okay, okay. And there are a lot, I know that in that case, like, there's a lot of people living multiple people in one apartment or one house. Yeah, we have some of that around here. It's maybe little pockets, because I'm more in the suburbs in Virginia. But, we're about 20 minutes from the mountains. So it's like everything changes, when you get into the mountains. It's very different. So Hannah, you've been on for quite some time, and I know you're outside in the parking lot, and I so appreciate you coming on to talk about this and to clarify. One thing I do want to clarify about the kids is that with the DCS, you said that in the cases that you talked about, these cases were actually um, reported and I want to clarify this, a family member or somebody that knew them reported them, and
Yeah,
that DCS was obligated to follow up, but that as far as they're not actively going around searching for families who are not taking proper care of their kids or don't have the right shelter, right?
right. No, I mean, they're not like waiting for these shelters to shut down to take children or anything, but
Okay.
if you've got 3x out there that decides to make a phone call, then you're screwed. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, on top of the stress of everything else, right? So I just wanted to clarify that though, because
yeah.
there's a lot of fear around that.
Yeah, and I want to clarify too that these are phone calls that are being made strictly about housing. These are not like,
Mm,
oh, this child's being abused, or these are not like already open cases that are being, I mean, these are cases where DCS is saying, if you get a roof over your child's head and you have water and
okay,
electricity, you're going to be fine, right?
okay, okay.
That's the only reason that DCS is giving to these families. It's not that these are like open cases that were already being
Mhm.
investigated, or that there's other
Okay,
reasons for children, right? So
okay. That's good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Now, one thing, a sensitive topic that came up with somebody that I know who deals with this, is that she said that one of the things they look out for, that they are advocates to help victims of child trafficking, and they said that in these types of tragedy, um, it is very common for predators to take advantage and to come into these situations. Have you been aware of any situations where people might have been in a vulnerable situation where you've seen this type of thing happening?
Um, like any disaster zone, especially
Mhm.
in the initial weeks, there is always an increase of all types of crime. Okay. Unfortunately, trafficking is part of that. There's an increase in looting, there's an increase in rioting. You've got an increase in just everything across the board. Uh,
Mhm.
and and trafficking is definitely a part of that. And we
Mhm.
come across some suspected trafficking issues out here. Whether
Mhm.
we're already here before the storm, I don't know. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know DCS. I'm not commenting on DCS's involvement in that. I don't have any.
Okay.
if that's
Okay. Yeah, interesting. I was interested because I was asking her about, what do you know about the Child Protective Services coming in, because they've really gone to battle against Child Protective Services with some of the issues there, that they're doing unsavory things. But then she said a big issue is that predators will take advantage. And so I guess that is something to look out for. Unfortunately, it's like it brings out the best in people and it brings out the worst.
right.
Speaking of the best, let's close out with a couple of wins. What are
Okay.
some of the best things that you've seen during this process? How, if you're journaling about it and you've got the win column, what's in the win column?
Yeah. Um, the win column, and every time I can get a family out of a tent, that's a win, right?
Okay.
That's a super great day for me. Anytime that I can get a family that, we've run across 4 now to date that have had CF issues. Anytime I can tell a family, like, hey, you're gonna be okay. You're not gonna lose. Found a place for you to go, right? That's always a win. Those are great. Those are great things.
Mhm.
Run across. We've only run across 4 of those cases so far, but yeah, going up to these people and telling them, hey, we're going to help you rebuild your home for free. That's a win. I mean, these people are devastated.
Yeah.
They didn't have flood insurance. FEMA's not giving them enough money. I mean,
Mhm.
they don't have a place to go, and they're like, man, how am I going to rebuild? Right? I mean, we're here.
Mhm.
That's that's just
Yeah. 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 It's good. I'm great. I'm very grateful for you and people like you who are stepping up to do the hard work. I mean, I know there's a long road ahead. I do get that. And I know that there are people who've come from all over the country. I hope that they keep coming. But right now they can donate. Tell us your website once again, spell it out, and tell people what kinds of things they can donate to help you.
sure. It's jackstables.com. That's JAKS stables.com. There's an Amazon wish list there, and pretty much everything on that list, and then gift cards to like clothes, things like that.
Okay.
Like,
Oh, you broke up a little bit.
oh, sorry, where'd you lose me?
We want gift cards to Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yeah, so Home Depot and Lowe's, so that we can go and buy like sheetrock and things like that you can't Amazon it.
Got it. Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody's listening and you own a supply company, if you own a lumber company, if you have connections and you can donate very large amounts of supplies,
Mm-hmm.
please contact Hannah through their website and arrange for that, because they do have depots set up where they can receive the supplies that are needed. In terms of sending stuff from your garage or your attic or things like that, do not do that right now. Just go on the Amazon wish list, and do the stuff that's specifically requested. That's a big request that I'm seeing from Hannah and from many people in the area. So please don't just clean out your garage, or your dresser drawers or anything like that.
No,
That this is not the time for that. Okay. Hannah, again, thank you so much for being here. We really, truly appreciate your time. Thank you for being out in the cold, sitting in your car. It's been a pleasure. And you're welcome to come back at any time. If you want to do an update, if you want to do a call to action and let us help you get this information out, we will definitely do that. We want, I have, like I said, I've got people from all over who want to be involved
Mhm.
and who are looking for ways to help. They just can't. Some people are coming, but like
Right.
people like me, it's like we gotta help you. So thank you again, Hannah, and thank you to everybody there, and let them know that many people are praying and sending well wishes, and hopefully you'll get more donations after tonight. Thanks again. Oh, I think let's give her a chance to unfreeze. There you are. Okay, you froze a little bit. Give us a goodbye, and we will see you back here hopefully soon.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thanks, Hannah.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.
All right, everybody. That was Hannah from Jack's Stables. She is based in Raleigh, but she has been boots on the ground, working in Spruce Pine area of North Carolina. You can follow her on her TikTok, which is Jack's Stables. And to all of you who have been live in the chat today, I really appreciate it. I apologize again to my Rumble people. I will get this uploaded. It's just been it was kind of a weird situation. We've had a few glitches with some of the tech stuff, but we'll get that sorted out. I'm Mary Grace. This is the Mary Grace Show, and hopefully, please share this. Please get this word out because I do want people to know the real situation on the ground. Some of it is um, really unconscionable. I'm actually really upset about the building permit type of stuff that they are being so such sticklers about that when people don't have a place to live. Like they're literally living out of tents. That bothers me a lot. And the county that they're in, if you want to contact their board of supervisors, it's Buncombe County. I think it's Buncombe, I think it is, in North Carolina. And I imagine this is happening in other counties as well. But I mean, it's crazy that they're being so strict about what type of lodging they can bring in to help these people under the circumstances. That really bothers me. So I think that's it for now. I'm going to sign off. I will be back. I'm going to be highlighting some of the things that are happening with the new administration coming in. So I'm going to be going over policies and things like that, and we will have more interviews coming up. But I do want to I want to emphasize that this situation in North Carolina, the devastation from this hurricane is ongoing. And in case you missed it, there are people still living in just tents. They're living in regular Walmart tents. Um, they are sleeping on the ground. Uh, Many of them don't have vehicles. There's a huge need for RVs, for campers, for uh, sturdy, substantial tents that you can put heaters in. Um, Things like that. So if you go to jacksstables.com, Jaks stables.com, you will see their Amazon list, but you can also make bigger donations of supplies, building supplies, Home Depot cards, Lowe's cards, so that they can purchase things like sheetrock and plywood and lumber. It's a huge need right now. As always, please get on my mailing list so that you won't miss a show. It's right there, marygracemedia.com. You can go and you can get on the mailing list. Also, when you go there, please go to my shopping tab and support our America First companies that partner with us. Anytime you go and shop at one of those America First companies, it gives us a small commission and it helps us to keep doing what we do here at Mary Grace Media on the Mary Grace Show. And with that, I am going to play you out with a couple of our beautiful ads from our America First companies that we love. And we will see you back here very soon. Thank you again for watching, and thank you for all of your support and for being so involved with all of these situations. Marty is asking, is it Jaks without a C? Yes, it's Jaks. Yes, and I posted it in the chat here a little bit. So I think we've got a good call to action. We've got some good marching orders here. And those of you who like to get involved, I would suggest making some phone calls or emails to these counties and asking them to make emergency exceptions um, for the building permits for temporary dwellings. It's kind of a big deal right now. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I'm Mary Grace signing off.
This is my brother.
And I'm Nace, and we're at the Grid Down Chowdown. And this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with.
Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's
We've
awesome.
been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
what it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you.
He really does.
Amen.
Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code MaryGrace. More now than ever on healthcare, and we're sicker than almost anybody in the world. We've put our trust in a system that's completely let us down. Dr. Troy Sproul and the team at Synapse Center for Health and Healing have changed all that. They are a functional medicine clinic, and they get to the root cause of what's made you sick in the first place. Once they do that, they give you solutions to help you get out of that. This is the way that medicine was meant to be practiced, and this is what they're doing. They're changing the entire system from the inside out, one person at a time, and you could be one of those people. And so when you're working with the team at Synapse, they're giving you solutions and not just prescriptions. That's a game changer for me. When you set up a free discovery call with Synapse, you're starting on a journey of healing. You're starting on a journey of getting answers. And that's why I've partnered with them, because I want you to be healthy. I want your family to be healthy. I want you to have all of the resources that you need to steward the body and the health that God's given you. Go to officialsynapse.com and tell them Mary Grace sent you. That's Official Synapse, SYNAPSE.com.